Well, Captain Carl is here, so that makes two of us. Now we just got to wait on our old pal El Chaco so we can get in that CPAP update. That's what we need to see. Short notice on this episode, but it should be fun. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. It's been a long time since we've done one of these episodes. Doing some housekeeping, building the signs for the episode. I've got so many different versions of the soundboard file that have changed. I don't know which one's which anymore. Why is this giving me a network error? Watch me disappear again. I just said I was professional, so of course it's like, fuck you. I'm gonna sabotage your stream. Yeah, I'm direct connected. Motherfucker. Hope everyone's drinking tonight. You've all earned it. It's been a long January already. I was on WATP last week, or I guess technically Saturday. I think the episode came out maybe the beginning of this week, but we reviewed this audio drama podcast from England that was pretty terrible. It was pretty hard. It was hard for me to even find clips. So I was just like, Carl, you got to pull all the clips. I'm just going to weigh in on what a piece of crap this is. But yeah, it was fun. Check it out. If you listen to WATP, so listen to WATP. If you don't, no harm, no foul. I was bitching about this on the Discord earlier, but I'm still pissed off because the situation is ongoing. So ordered a bunch of stuff from Amazon like week before last, and last Saturday, a week from this past Saturday, we had a big snowstorm. Apparently, it's like the most fucking snow St. Louis has ever seen in the history of time because it fucking, of course, it is climate change and all that nonsense. So they handed off all their shit to USPS because I guess that's what Amazon does. Hey, we're not fucking risking our trucks. You guys do it. And I have not had mail delivery in a week and a half now. They just like stopped delivering mail, which is super annoying because they now have like 4 things that they won't let me just say, all right, just fucking leave it at the post office and I'll come get it because I'm not a pussy that can't drive on these roads. The roads are pretty much fucking clear, but apparently your drivers are a bunch of pussies. Pisses me off, man. The month of December, I had $500 in glass sales at the studio. Sold 3 pieces for a total of somewhere around I think it's right at $500, and then I get 60% of that. So I was pretty happy to see pieces starting to move. I guess people like the stuff for Christmas, which is always a great feeling. Working on making some glass roses right now for Valentine's Day because bitches love glass roses. I've got some commissions sitting in my inbox that I'm trying to get through. I have one that's really cool. It's a rock with a vessel blown onto the side of it that I then cut the top open, so it's like a vase, but it's matches with the side of this rock. And so I did a tester, and I really like the way it turned out. And so now I'm waiting on the client to give me a nice rock, and then I'm going to make a vase that goes on it. So looking forward to making that here in the next, I don't know, whenever they get me the rock, few weeks. But I'm really hoping that these roses sell, because I'm trying to make 2025 the year that blowing glass doesn't put me in the red, because it's been extremely expensive. It is an extremely expensive hobby. So the more sales I can get, the closer to breaking even. I'm already in the red because, of course, one of the first things I did this year was buy some new tools. I didn't have a good set of tweezers, so I didn't have SZ tweezers at all. So I ordered it from this blacksmith. He's a glass artist and a metal worker. He has a metal shop in Los Angeles that is all like Industrial Revolution era machinery. So he's doing stuff with like these auto hammers, and he has like one big motor that runs all of his equipment. And there are all these belts that tie into the main drive shaft, and he like turns them on and turns them off by engaging or disengaging the machinery. It's really cool, the stuff he's doing. He posts stuff on Instagram. M. Grossman, I think, is, if you search that, you should be able to find him. He just makes some really cool stuff. So I bought a pair of jacks from him back in November or maybe October, and then he did this line of tweezers and was like, "Buy my tweezers," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm gonna buy your tweezers. These jacks are fucking great. Of course, I'm gonna buy another tool that you have." Anybody have any good news stories? Got to find some news stories for the news segment once El Chaco gets here. I hope everyone had a good Christmas. I had a really nice time sitting in the quiet of my own home. The New Year's I ran. Oh yeah, on New Year's I ran down to Tulsa, did a show with Truckin' and Tuckin' and Tim, which was a lot of fun. And then I had to be back here by the 2nd to do my actual real job. That's somewhere like 37 people died or something. Oh, boy, that's suspicious. I wonder who was on that plane. Let's see, I got to open up this too. Forgot to do that. 2 survivors. Well, that's better than that plane crash that Bane was in The Dark Knight, which there were no survivors. Yeah, cool. Got all my sound recording stuff turned on. I'm ready for it to be the end of January. Actually, you know what? Let's just jump straight to June. Can we do that? Can we as a society just decide we're not going to do the first 5 months of the year? We're just going to jump straight to the summer. Great. Oh yeah. Boy, these California fires, the Twitter discourse about these fires is fucking mind-blowing. Because there are people being like, well, what would Republicans do that would have made this made the fires not happen? How are they going to fight more fires? And it's like, it's not It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's just like piss poor management by the government, no matter who is in charge. They didn't do any of their due diligence. They didn't clear out the fucking underbrush. They didn't store extra water. They had stuff on the books for storage reservoirs for 10 years. They didn't do any of that. And then the fires got out of hand. And then they're like, well, they've never been ready for fires with winds over 100 miles an hour. And you can just go look at these headlines where it's like in 2023, there was like gusts up to 140 miles an hour. In 2012, stuff over 100 miles an hour. Like the last 15 years, there's been a handful of years where the winds were over 100 miles an hour. And it's like, it's not climate change. It's just fucking piss poor planning. And I kind of don't really feel bad for any of those people. Like I know, like, yeah, losing your house is bad and everything, and you don't have any insurance, but you've chosen to live in a fire zone, and you've chosen to live in a just dog shit state that is exporting its mental retardation out into the ether. So they're going to leave, like some of these people are going to leave California and go to Texas or Wyoming or fucking Missouri, wherever. And they're going to show up and be like, well, I had to get away from the fires and the poor management. And then they're going to vote for politicians that don't want to that want all this stupid environmental bullshit. Like, oh, we have to let water out of the reservoirs. We have to let the rainwater flow out into the ocean so that we can save some fish. Like, no, fuck the fish. Are the fish voting? Are the fish paying taxes? If not, it's not your fucking concern. Humans first, people first. Here's a good one. Yeah. Total LA death. Yeah. Gotta say, don't really. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a shame. I also, another one that people are dunking on James Woods because he went on, I don't know, CNN or Fox News, and he was like, our house is burned to the ground, and it's just devastating. We're so sad. And then I guess the fire's cleared and his house is like miraculously saved. And then people are like, so you went on CNN and lied? You went on CNN and lied? Like, no, he evacuated the area. Everything was on fire. He assumed that his house was gone. And then by just pure luck, and because I saw a video and like the house next to his was fucking gone. And he's in there like, well, no, he didn't lie. He just didn't fucking know. The other thing that's crazy is that we missed from not being on the air, this H-1B visa stuff. Boy, that has really gotten the boomers out in full force with their total retardation. They're now today or yesterday and today, there's been a bunch of people talking about how you can go make $70,000 by being a store manager or assistant store manager at like Chipotle or McDonald's or whatever, and that Zoomers don't want to. It's like this boomer mentality of, when I was 17 years old, I walked into a place and told them I wanted an internship, and they made me, they put me through an apprenticeship to learn how to use AutoCAD, and it's like, yeah, you can't fucking do that anymore. Now you have to have a degree in being a fucking drafting engineer or mechanical engineer. There's no middle ground. And so these people that have been telling us for fucking decades that we got to go to college so we can get a good job so that we don't end up flipping burgers have now pivoted 180, and they're like, you can't get a job. You need to go flip burgers, you lazy fuck. And it's like, yeah, we all got tens of thousands of dollars in student loans based on this lie you told us. And now you told us that we just have to fucking settle down and accept whatever bullshit level job that we can because fuck us. I'm so tired of boomers, and I am so tired of people thinking that jobs are something you should be happy to have. You should be happy to have a job. No, fuck you. I am happy to have a job, but I don't fucking serve my job. I serve my own life. And the job is supposed to serve me serving my life, not dominate and define my life.
Have you ever heard of the Protestant work ethic?
I have not.
So there was somebody who was touching upon this, and basically before Luther came along, we used to cherish recreation time as something that was holy,
Yeah.
like something that was required. And if you look at, a lot of times people look at like Europe and like all these like amazing like cathedrals and beautiful buildings and like the edifices on the outside, and they'll say, like, where did all that money come from? Oh, the Catholic Church was robbing people. And no. It had nothing to do with that. People had free time to learn skills. You know, like serfs actually had more free time than us. They paid less taxes than us, and they had more free time than us in serfdom than what we have. Like, I pay 40% of my income in tax to Canada when I was there. That's unreasonable, and then that's not even including like the carbon tax and all this stuff. Good to see you, by the way. Sorry I'm late.
Well. Yeah,
sorry I'm late. I just got it all done, and right as I was doing it, I was having it out with my employer or my client, and I told him this has got to change. This has got to change because I got sent a press release at 6 p.m. my time. And it was for something that was going to go out pre-market tomorrow morning, and they needed me to have they were needing me to have an article like ready for them, and then like not one article, 2 fucking articles, and my power was out when they were coming through with that, so I ate my dinner, I got that done, and that's what I was telling you. I was like probably gonna have to cancel, but then I told this guy, and he was like, on top of it, I had to rewrite 4 articles that I did already. I stayed up last night late doing articles, and it was for a company that is all over the fucking map. They do mining and they do crypto, and like they do like 2 different types of minerals that they mine. I'm looking at their press releases. I'm giving no information. The last time they talked about crypto was like 6 months ago. I thought they're done with that. And then so I just wrote on what was like more recent. And then they come back and they go, oh, yeah, we're putting out a press release tomorrow and you need to write an article on it. And it's all about crypto. And you need to rewrite all the ones that I did last night. And it's
fuckers.
Good to see you.
Fuckers. Yeah.
Good to see you.
So Captain Carl was asking about a CPAP update. And this is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to go change socks.
Yeah, all right. I can give Captain Carl a CPAP update. While you're going and changing socks.
Right back. Yeah, it's this weird philosophy I have. I feel like if you change socks, it like changes your whole outlook on the day.
And you know what? That's a great way to put it, actually. Yeah. And did I bring this up before? Maybe off the air or something, but I always thought like I used to write fiction, and I wrote a pilot for a television show, and it was about a really successful drug dealer, but like who was wanting to quit it and get out of it and have a real life. And he had all this stacks of cash because he couldn't put it anywhere. He couldn't launder it or anything like that. And so one of his luxuries was always buying fresh pairs of socks, like brand new, and fresh pairs of underwear. He would just go like he never wore anything twice. And that was just kind of his.
That is a dream that I have in my life. Yeah. To only wear brand new, unused socks and then just donate them. Someone else wash them, not my problem. I'll be right back.
Go do that. All right. Let's see. CPAP update. I don't know. I've been checking my records on it. It's not been great lately. And I saw this thing. I don't know. One of the evil pharmaceutical companies claims it has a cure for sleep apnea, but it turns out it's just like another stupid Ozempic type thing just to like lose weight. And my sleep apnea has to do with a broken nose that I had when I was in high school that didn't set right, and I had to get a surgery on it afterwards. It doesn't help that I'm getting older and I got this little gullet thing going underneath here, but other than that, man, I wish my sleep was better. That's the sleep apnea update. I got lots of farm updates though for when you guys are ready. I wouldn't say it's fish news, but I got some farm updates, and we'll have to talk about 2025 so far. Hey, like this one's starting hot. Oh man, I did not think I was going to be able to get on this one tonight, but I just told my client afterwards. I was like, dude, I need this. I need to have my mental health straight. I need a good work life balance. Because when I signed on to do this work for this guy almost exclusively back in the end of 2020, his words to me were, I don't want your work schedule to change. You just do what you do, but when you're doing it, do it for me first. And that was it. And then slowly but surely, I did a spreadsheet. I did a spreadsheet right on New Year's Eve to look at how many documents I produced for these clients in 2024. It was 475. I did 475. That's articles, press releases, landing pages, edits, rewrites, 475. And the previous year was 360 something. And then the previous year was in the 200s. And then prior to that, it was only 200. So, hey, can you there we go. There we go. I want to be looking at you. I did not bring any news in, by the way, today.
I've got news.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I went to the gym on my way home and, obviously got sweaty. And then I got down here and now it's like I'm starting to cool off. It's kind of chilly in the basement. And I was like, my feet are sweaty and I'm going to be uncomfortable for the next hour and a half.
Man, I'm glad you did that. I cracked a beer right before I came on. I'm like a college student all of a sudden. I got the Miller High Life going because we got like a bunch of tourists and like I live in like one of the coolest parts of Paraguay that's like getting more popular as more Paraguayans are able to afford vehicles. And so like on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, I don't even leave the house. There's no point because the road is literally like bumper to bumper for 30 miles and it's insane. And what happens is all the grocery stores, they load up for all these tourists in the tourist areas and they give them like shitloads of the like common Paraguayan beers. I know that they're not sending their best. Like they're probably sending their like about to expires. So I didn't get my Pilsen. I got Miller High Life. It's not a bad. I don't get this champagne of beers crap, but it's not bad. So
yeah, I bought a 30-pack of Coors to go on WATP this past week. So I've been slumming it with those.
Did you shill the show?
I did. Always do.
Nice.
Yeah, but cool. Are we ready to jump into the real deal?
Did you already start the show?
Yeah, it's on record. I haven't started the show. No.
Hola, mi hinchada.
No, here we go.
All right.
This week's episode of Here's What I Don't Get is brought to you in part by freelance lighting designers out there doing the hard work, doing shows for less than their union wage, being disappointed by the people around them not doing a good job. And I really feel for you. And welcome back to Here's What I Don't Get. From north to south, east to west, the only intercontinental podcast to tackle all of life's toughest issues and the longest consecutively running podcast on the See You Next Tuesday podcast network. I am your host, Tab Burke, coming to you live from the most dangerous city in America. And joining me from way down south, that's right, it's your friend, El Chaco.
Hola, mi hinchada. Man, it has been way too long. Way too long. And I was trying to talk you into going to the Blues game this week because my Calgary Flames are in town and they're not playing one game in St. Louis. They're doing this like weird, like, let's act like it's like COVID, again. And they're doing 2 games in St. Louis. Like it's not even a home and home. Nope. Just the Flames. They came there and they're going to play tonight and then they're going to sleep in the hotel for 2 nights. And then they're going to play again on Thursday. And and it's good for them because actually, as you may know, 2025 off to a hot start.
Yeah,
figuratively and literally. See the Calgary Flames, my team. They went to go and play a game. So they were in California. They played Anaheim They beat Anaheim. I was happy about that. And they were supposed to play back to back. So I typically now, because it's like any West Coast games, there's no way I'm going to even be able to check the score. A game starts at like midnight my time. So, or 1. So I have this like ritual where I gather the kids together because I'm forcing them to like hockey. And we watch the 10-minute highlight package on YouTube the next morning. So we get up the next morning. I'm like, yeah, we're playing LA. And I get up the next morning and we look and there's no game. There's no highlights. What? But they were going to play last night. But what happened? Well, it turns out, see, when the Flames came to LA, they really came to LA. They like literally and figuratively came to LA. No, they actually, so they postponed the game, and now the league's like freaking out because like the Staples Center is like, always booked solid like a year in advance, and they have to make the game up and they have to play it in LA, and they have to do it before like April, and there's like this break in between. They can't break the break and all this kind of stuff. So we may have an asterisk year where my team only plays 81 games instead of 82, and it's a little weird, but yeah, this year's starting a little wacky. Did you have a good New Year's Eve? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, it was nice and quiet. I slept in. I went and bartended an event for the family that owns the Glass Studio.
Okay. Did you get paid well?
Very well.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah.
And then, a few days later, I went out to Tulsa, saw my dad play, saw a bunch of friends and family. Went to did the show that I always do out there for New Year's, and loaded that out the next morning. Drove back here, had to work on the 2nd, which sucked. And then it's just been like show days since being back. Had yesterday off, which was nice, and then so tomorrow morning we have a 10 a.m. matinee, and then I have the show for like the next until Saturday, and then I finally get Sunday off again.
Nice. Don't work that Sunday. Just relax the way God intended.
I think I'm blowing glass that Sunday.
Okay, well that's fair. You can do that. That's fair. That's your recreation, and like we said in the preamble, recreation time is holy.
Yeah,
it's necessary. God wants you to have it.
Yeah.
and right now I'm having a tough time getting it. Holy moly.
How was your end of the year?
You know what, man? Christmas was it was a marathon until Christmas. I was getting hit with like insane amounts of articles to write, and I had this one set up where because I don't work on Sunday.
Yeah,
I never work on Sunday, and it's a rule I will not break. So we went to Asuncion for the mass. Oh, okay. We had to finish off our Christmas shopping, and so I had left it to the like last Saturday before Christmas, and we're not going to do it out here because like if I want cheap Chinese crap, I can get it out here, but I got enough of that everywhere, like the plastic that breaks every 2 seconds. So we set it up. We stayed overnight Friday to Saturday. No, we drove in on Saturday. Sorry. We drove in on Saturday, went to go do the shopping. But on Friday night, like as I'm packing, I get a bunch of emails and texts from the clients, and it's an emergency. It's an emergency because, see, they trade on the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ has these very strict rules about how to stay on the NASDAQ. And one of them is if your stock falls below $1 and stays below $1 for 30 trading days, you're off the NASDAQ. And if you're off the NASDAQ, it's really hard to get back on, right? It's really hard to get back on.
Yeah.
So they were at, I think, day 25, and they needed to put something out. And so I'm telling my client, I'm like, look, I've got this weekend booked. Like this is, and he's like, well, I need it first thing Monday morning before market opens. So that's like and I need it way before market opens. So like market opens in my time zone at 11 a.m. And so he would need everything by 10 a.m. And he needed 4 articles. 4 articles. I get this at 9:30 p.m. on the Friday. I'm like, fuck it, dude. Like I'm going to finish my Christmas shopping. I told you about this for weeks. I'm going to go do that. I don't work on a Sunday. So you'll get it when you get it. And meanwhile, like the thing I was supposed to be working on was like I didn't even have the details on it until Saturday night. So I get home from Asuncion and I go to bed. I try to go to bed early so I can get up stupid early and get working on these 4 articles. Like I can't do them that fast, but apparently I'm going to do them that fast. So here's Cap and Carl. Here's a CPAP update. So I go to bed. I'm like, look, I need a good sleep. I take a melatonin. I'm like, I can't fuck around. I can't. My brain circus has to shut down. I have to take a melatonin, and I need a good sleep. And I need to get up at like 4:30 or 5. Get this thing rolling. And I go to sleep. It's about 10:15, and 11:15, an hour into my sleep, I wake up. Why do I wake up? Because for the first time ever, I rolled over in my sleep. My arm caught the CPAP hose, pulled the CPAP machine onto the floor, splashed the water everywhere. And I'm sitting there going like, I've got this mess to clean up. I've got a melatonin brain and I got to get up. I got to be sharp to get this stuff done in the morning. So as I'm cleaning up the, I'm so stressed at this point. As I'm cleaning up the mess, I decide, you know what? I'm going to wait till 12:01 and I'm going to knock these fuckers out. And I'm going to get these articles done. I don't care if it takes me till 4 or 5 in the morning, but I will then go to bed and I can sleep and rest the day because I have accomplished what I needed to accomplish.
Because the stress is going to keep you up.
It is.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was so bad. And so I got on there and then I tell my client, I'm like, look, I'm going to work on this from 12:01 till whenever it takes me. Don't judge the quality. It's going to be dog shit. And he's just like marveling. He's like, dude, like you're a warrior, blah, 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 blah. And then I send him. So I cranked them through so fast. I was done by 2:30 in the morning. I send them off to him and the fucker, he doesn't respond to me the next day. Doesn't thank me. doesn't say great job. Doesn't say, you know, it's all done, everything like that. And that was it. That was it. And then I told him afterwards, I'm like, dude, I'm done this and we're not talking until like after Christmas and I need time off. And I just didn't respond anymore after that. I was done. The whole day he didn't come back to me. And so
after a Herculean effort got him what he needed. Yeah.
Exactly what he needed.
You and I were texting about this, I think the next day or maybe a day. I think it was the next day after you had woken up and I was astonished.
It was insane.
Yeah.
And that's why I've got my name as a bag of meat for this episode. Cause that's what I felt like. I just felt like a bag of meat that nobody gives a shit about. And so I got that done. Thankfully I had a really good Christmas. Again, going warrior mode. We went back to Asuncion and did the midnight mass. And because Christmas, kids, Santa Claus, logistics, we drove in, we picked up Sully, went to the mass together, and then Sully sat co-pilot, my wife in the backseat with the kids, and I drove home after the mass. So 1:30 a.m. till 3:30 a.m. I'm dodging drunk drivers like the whole way, and got home, got the kids to bed, got the presents out I think we were done. I think I was in bed by like 4:30, and then Christmas came. We got up. I think I got up like. Thankfully, the kids actually slept in a little bit, so we actually kind of got started at like 10. I let Sully sleep. Like he came and stayed in our guest house, and I was just like, we're not going to bother him. He does his thing, and we got her done. My wife is also a champion. She had she made it. She did the whole turkey. She made Swedish meatballs. It was incredible, and then we had our buddy Simon come over. And he stayed. We actually just moved another spare bed into my home gym, and he stayed over, and it was awesome. And then I just I did a little bit of work in between Christmas and New Year's, but not too much.
Yeah.
And then New Year's came, and I wanted to go to bed early, but this year my kids wanted to stay up for the midnight countdown. It was the very first time that they actually got there. And I think they got the courage because we pulled the midnight mass thing not that long before. So we stayed up, we waited. We were both dog tired, wanted to go to bed so bad, but did it for the kids. Enjoyed the fireworks in the neighborhood. And overall, like I don't need much to recharge my batteries, but like I got what I needed, but I'm right back into it again. And 2025 is not starting off on a good note. And I was so happy to see 2024 go, because 24 sucked so bad. And I'm going to bring this up in my issue. It's going to be a part of my issue. But did you get my issue in there? I should probably pop that.
I've got it in there. Yeah, the end of 2024. So the last few days, I went through and like posted a bunch of photos from throughout the year that I hadn't really posted on Instagram, and kind of talked about some of the stuff that, because 2024 was there's a lot of change that happened in my life last year.
Yeah.
And so I got to this venue, and I've done this New Year's Eve show. I've done, in the last 12 years, 13 years, however long I've been working for this band, I've done like probably 10 or 11 of those New Year's with those guys. And the last like 4 of them have been in this same venue that we've done this show in. And so, it was like same room, same setup.
You're familiar with this.
And so, and while it all is the same place, it felt like I was in a totally different spot this New Year's than I was last year,
like
and even the year before that. And so I posted this stuff on Instagram over the last few days of the year, and I was like, yep, happy to see this shit in the rearview mirror. And then this year has been a really just slog already.
Dude, we're 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
And the United States has like SUV sized drones. LA is on fire. Trump's talking about buying Greenland and taking over Canada.
The Midwest is frozen solid.
Dude, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So, I just to kind of end on a little bit of a good note, like that, you gotta cherish the good things, right? You gotta cherish the good things. So my father-in-law gave us some cash to use for Christmas, and my wife this year was like, rather than just buy crap for the kids, why don't we just do experiences? Let's do some experiences.
Do something cool, fun. Yes.
So this morning we went on a horseback riding adventure, which was fun. I loved it. My daughter loves horses. And this was the very first time she actually rode on a horse, like by herself, like not with an adult with her. And, it was just a simple little trail ride. And it was like, it was blazing hot, but it was awesome. And I had to like move mountains. That's why I worked last night, so I could still keep this morning open for that horseback riding adventure. And we're still going to do a big fishing adventure too. We're going to go do a fishing thing later. We're going to wait until the weather is a little less hot.
Yeah.
But with the remainder, we bought a cow.
Nice.
We have a cow now. I have a
milking cow or a meat
I have
cow?
a milking cow, and
Nice.
and the kids have already named her Buttercup, and Buttercup is in my pasture right now and is saving me money on gasoline for lawn mowing. And I bought her cheap because the lady who was selling her did not have enough grass, so she's a little skinny. but
Yeah.
in like 4 months, she'll be ready. And then we're going to get her a date with one of the bulls in the neighborhood. And then once she has a calf, that's when we can start looking at doing the dairy thing. And
Yeah.
and this is the thing, like there's so much potential there because you can't get, do you know how hard it is to get cheddar cheese down here? Like
I do
it's
not.
impossible. It's impossible. There was this one point in time where this one like Paraguayan Costco had brought in cheddar cheese from Argentina. And it was like mild cheddar cheese. We usually buy like the old or the sharp cheddar, but back home. But like it scratched the itch. And then they stopped selling it. And they sell them in these giant like logs. And we would buy them, cut them up, wrap them up again, and put them in the freezer so that we could, use them when we use them. But and Buck will like this. See, I got really good at making biscuits back in Canada. But making my biscuits, I would always make them with sour cream and with buttermilk. And I can't get buttermilk here. I can get sour cream, but I can't get buttermilk here. So the thinking is this dairy cow is not only going to help us out because these things will produce like 15 liters a day. 15 liters a day. My kids go through like 3 liters a day, but like, we'll have leftover to make cheese and buttermilk, and I'll make biscuits, and my lawn will be much tidier.
Pre-mowed.
Yeah. And then if she has a calf and it's a boy and we can geld it, and then I got more meat too. So like this is shaping up. So I wanted to end that part on a good note.
Well, let me pivot on that on another good note, also related to cows.
Okay.
So the 23rd, I went out to the grocery store to get some like stuff for the, to get me through to New Year's basically. And I decided, so when I'm doing a holiday by myself, Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, what I normally do is I grill myself a steak. And what I have come to really enjoy is instead of buying a T-bone, which is like a strip and then the fillet, because you can either get the fillet right or the strip right. It's really hard to get them both right. One of them ends up underdone or overdone.
Yes.
What I started doing,
bones mess everything up, man.
Yeah, what I started doing a few years ago is I would just buy a fillet and I would buy a strip, and then I could put them on the grill based on their thickness and get them off at the same time. And then I was like, well, if I'm buying the fillet, I would rather have a ribeye than a strip. So I'll buy a ribeye and a fillet. So I went to this grocery store and I get a ribeye at the butcher counter. They give me the ribeye and then I get the fillet and he weighs it and he wraps it up, and then I check out. And when I check out, I was like, that total is no, it wasn't the total. It was when I got home. I got home and went to season them, and I pulled the package out of the bag, and on the package it said flank steak, like $13.99.
But it wasn't a flank steak.
And I was like, I didn't get a flank steak. And I opened it, and it is in fact the fillet that I bought, which was supposed to be $29.99 a pound.
Oh,
so that guy ended up giving me like a 60% discount, and I was like,
"No kidding, man! Flank steak's garbage."
Miracle, yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Then I remembered that I had to work Christmas Day, so I grilled them. I had this gal that I've been seeing over on Christmas Eve, and grilled them, and made some fries, and
nice.
And we had a pretty great dinner. Yeah.
Speaking of fries, by the way, back to the cow. When we have cow meat, I can't wait to make a giant amount of beef tallow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's happening. That's so happening. Well, should we jump into the issues?
Yeah, let's get into some issues. So I've got 2 this week, so we're gonna go a little bit differently.
Okay.
Here's what I don't get. Reparations. They're not giving any to me because I'm a white guy, and I'm very upset about it. No, so I don't know if you saw, but the Justice Department this week, like yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, they released a 123-page document about the Tulsa Race Massacre, which up until about 5-6 years ago was referred to as the Tulsa Race Riots. And I've talked about the Tulsa Race Riots before on the show.
Devin Stack and Blackpilled also did a fantastic
dive
on them. Like
I have a little bit of a unique point of view, having grown up in Greenwood. I mean, I went to the Church of the Restoration, like on fucking Greenwood in the heart of Greenwood. My high school is the first black high school. It started as the Dunbar School, and then in 1913 became Booker T. Washington High School, right in the fucking deep central part of Greenwood. Like literally spent my whole life in and around the area. And so in the late 80s, this, you know, it basically wasn't talked about. In 1921, so it was Memorial Day weekend. It was a Friday. This woman gets on an elevator with there's a black man who's the elevator operator. Elevator hits the ground floor. She screams, and he goes running out of the building. Not really certain exactly what happened, but he ends up getting arrested. A group of black people from Greenwood march up to the courthouse,
acted reasonably and peacefully.
Yeah, and but there's also a big group of white people outside of there that want him lynched. The sheriff is like, we are not going to do that. We're going to, you know, have law and order. A fight breaks out outside the courthouse. Some guns go off, and like 6 people are shot. Most of them are the black people. The black people flee. The sheriff ends up convincing them to go back to Greenwood. But then the next day, a letter is posted in the newspaper that has never been found again, where some rich hoity-toity person basically like gears up the city to take revenge. And so that evening, the whites march into Greenwood. There's, you know, burning. A dozen or so blocks are burnt to the ground. By Monday, it's all squared away and over. And, you know, so that's the Tulsa race riots. And so what isn't taught in schools was something that I didn't even learn until 5 or 7 years ago. Because you know, Greenwood is a shit hole in town, just a shithole. And my entire life, I thought it was a shithole because of what happened in 1921, but it's not. It's a shithole because in the 70s, when the federal interstate system came through, they didn't want to go through south of downtown where all the white people live with their expensive homes. No, they went to North Tulsa where all the black people live and decimated Greenwood. Like they basically laid the highway over what was burnt to the ground in the 1920s. That's never talked about. What's also never talked about was that Greenwood was completely rebuilt by 1922 without any outside help. No help from the city, state, federal government. The community of Greenwood used the money within because it was it was the richest black neighborhood in the United States.
Right.
They came together as a community and rebuilt their shit without anyone's outside help.
Good on them.
So fast forward to the 1980s. Now that it's been 60 years and most of the like adults who were alive at the time are dead, we start having these conversations, and it starts being this like point of contention and discussion about the Tulsa race riots. And they formed the Race Riot Commission to investigate and find all this stuff. And the Race Riot Commission comes out with its findings that there were hundreds killed, and there were airplanes dropping fire bombs and all this like outrageous stuff that's really not really provable.
Go figure.
Then you fast forward another 10 years, and in the early 2000s, this conversation starts to happen about mass graves, which you know about. You know, we've talked about this.
Oh, do I ever?
With the Canadian, it's the school, the tribal school.
Yeah, it's a residential school system that they had, that the government put in place, and had the Catholic Church run like 60% of them. So that's why all the attacks don't go on the government. They just go on my churches. And, yeah. So
very similarly, somehow this narrative of like 1,000 now dead, and there are mass graves. There are mass graves somewhere in Tulsa of all these people that were murdered. They changed the nomenclature. So instead of it being a race riot, now it's a race massacre, as if like, yes, what happened was
like
terrible.
A Holocaust happened.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't just like there were bad actors on both sides that started tensions that escalated. And it wasn't.
But diversity is our strength, by the way. Diversity is our strength.
It wasn't just the whites marching in there and burning it down because they were evil racists. Like it's so nuanced. And it's not discussed in that way. And so the city ends up spending. So it's 2018, I believe. 2016, they commit a few $100,000 to investigate. They have all this research. They know where the mass graves are. The mass graves are in what was a white cemetery south of downtown Tulsa.
Okay.
Greenwood is north of downtown Tulsa.
Okay.
Now, in my mind, if I am slaughtering thousands of people, I'm not bussing their asses across town to bury in a white cemetery. I'd bury them somewhere in North Tulsa.
Can I stop you there for just one pause?
Yeah.
Were they able to do like excavation or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting to.
You're getting to that because
Yeah.
can I just 2 words? I'm just gonna predict. My prediction is gonna be 2 words: tree roots. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they
Roots.
have done this research. They dig a giant hole in this cemetery. They find nothing. You know, they bring in archaeologists.
What? No way. No way. They
Yeah.
found nothing. No.
They say if there are graves, they'll be at this depth. 15 feet, whatever it's supposed to be. And so they dig to that depth. They find nothing. So they dig twice
Funny
the
thing
depth.
about mass graves. That always seems to happen. It's weird.
And they increase the radius, and they find fuck all. Not a single. In my mind, if they were going to find a mass grave, they would have found a mass grave in the 70s when they were laying the interstate, and that might have been covered up because people are evil. Yeah. But Mayor G.T. Bynum at the time, he comes out and does this big. They do this big press conference.
Like a circus promoter.
Yeah, he's a cunt. They do this big press conference about how they found nothing, and he comes out and basically says, like, while we found nothing, it doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't nothing. And the story of mass graves speak to a greater truth that of the terrible things that happen and the like wounds that won't heal, and just goes on and on and on. So now the Justice Department, coincidentally, in the waning days of Biden's administration, puts out this 123-page document that basically says, like, yeah, this terrible thing happened 104 years ago. And yeah, there's no real evidence that there are mass graves, and we don't really know how many people are dead. And there are only like 6 survivors now. They were all infants at the time that the thing happened. So they don't even have. That
reminds me of another historical thing, but we won't get into that because we'll get
they don't even have first-hand accounts because they weren't like old enough to form and understand memories. Like my earliest memories are somewhere in 1994 or 1995. Like, dude, I don't. I'm aware.
His son is 12, and I'm talking to him about stuff when he was 6. He could barely remember it.
Yeah. I'm aware of what happened in 1991 to like 1999 through like having been exposed to the culture and like watching TV shows from the time as an adult and that kind of thing. So like I know what happened in the 90s, but I don't really have a firsthand account of anything until fucking 9/11, basically.
That'll spark it.
And so
speaking of reparations.
So I'm on Twitter and I see this Justice Department post, and this is a really long way to get around to this point being a majority of the comments on this this post are people saying, a lot of them were just a copy paste of cut the check. And but then there were some that were longer discussions about reparations being owed. And so I got into some arguments with these people about where do they think this money is coming from and who is the money going to. So what I don't get about the reparations is I don't get the idea that because something happened in the past, we, the people of the present, are required to make restitution for said thing, especially in a world where my family still lives in the Tulsa area. I don't live in the Tulsa area anymore. I was born there, yes, but I was born there 70 years after the event happened, almost to the day, like just shy of right at 70 years later than this terrible event. And if I still lived there, the idea that I somehow, arguable resident of Greenwood, owe reparations to Black Tulsans who may not live in Greenwood because my skin tone is the skin tone of the people that did the bad thing 100 years ago, is so patently absurd And all this, the only purpose that this narrative has, the only reason why they want to put this shit out there is to continue to drive a wedge between us as people based entirely on the color of our skin, so that we don't start looking at who wrote the letter to the newspaper. What was actual? Why did Greenwood need to burn? Greenwood needed to burn because it was between the railroad tracks where the shipments came in and the warehouses where the shit got distributed. And they were tired of having to horse and carriage their shit all the way across town. That's who's responsible. Those companies, those people, all dead.
Look
the
into their
other thing
names.
that's really irritating about this reparations is it's part of this like ever present now that I talked about several episodes ago.
Yep.
Where we simultaneously, as a culture, are responsible for the sins of our great grandparents,
But we're not.
but people are not responsible for their actions today.
Now.
Like,
yes.
in England right now, and the two aren't connected, but it's like there's a parallel here where in England, like it's now exploded that over the last 10 years, 1 in 7, something like that, 1 in 7 girls in Rotterdam were raped.
And did you see the smirk on that MP who voted it down?
Yeah, the chick that looked like Lon Chaney.
Demonic. Okay.
So, like, and the fact that's been covered up for the last 10 years to not allow any kind of division to happen. The fact that you have, criminals like Michael Brown or George Floyd or Terrence Crutcher or any one of the Jordan Neely, like these people that are somehow not responsible for their actions, even though they were doing them in the moment. But I'm on the hook because before my family even moved to America, white people owned slaves in the southern United States, and I live in a state that was part of the southern United States. I'm on the hook for something that happened before my family even came to Tulsa because I'm the color of the people that did the bad thing. And like at a certain, yes, these things are bad. Bad things happen in history, but the idea is that we learn from them and stop doing them. Not that we somehow owe restitution to people who are not affected from it. This shit does not affect your daily life. And Greenwood specifically pisses me off in the narrative that we need to give these people money. Greenwood is a shithole, not because of what happened in 1921, not because they built an interstate in 1977. Greenwood is a shithole because the culture of the area has turned into such a give me, hand out, I didn't do nothing, I didn't see nothing, that like the society is almost on total collapse. When I was in high school, the Chicken Hut that was fucking blocks away from a school, there was a shooting at 3 a.m. that 3 people were shot in a crowd of 100, and not one person saw what happened. Not one. They can't have there was the grocery store that was at Pine in Peoria went out of business in 2008 and has not reopened. And they've done companies have said we're going to open up a grocery store again in this location, but we have to do some studies first on how we're going to do it. And then like they won't come out and say it, like we can't open a grocery store here because if we do, all of our shit's going to be stolen and we can't afford that. And that's the culture of the area. So the idea that for some reason we need to give the families of someone who may or may not have been there 100 years ago $1 million because something happened 100 years ago that was bad is so fucking absurd as to be farcical. But it's not farcical to the people arguing it. And it's not just black people arguing it. There are white people arguing this too out of some twisted sense of white guilt for something that is not their fault. It's not our fucking fault. It's time to move on. When my family moved to America, we were fucking poor Irish workers that weren't worth a damn to anybody. They called us all kinds of fucking slurs. And you know what we did? We fucking put our nose in the ground. We worked hard and we got out of poverty. That's the American dream. And now the American dream is, what can I be a victim for in the past that will just give me some handouts so that I'm not responsible for my actions? And I am so fucking sick of hearing about that.
Amen. So Canada didn't have the same sort of thing, right? Like, cause like we don't have the history of slavery. We had the Underground Railroad, people coming up.
Yeah.
But our ours is with the First Nations, right? And so we had our mass grave situation, and it's blown up, to the point where, it's like shameful to celebrate Canada Day, and you got to wear this orange T-shirt and bullshit like that. And I was naive, right? I'm pretty sure, like we're far enough apart in age, but not that far apart in terms of the culture. And so I grew up with like the veneer of race relations. I had Gordon on Sesame Street and Luis. I had the Huxtables. I watched In Living Color. All these kind of things when I was growing up. I remember my first rap album was Run DMC's Tougher Than Leather. It was the first time I'd heard rap before, and I liked it a lot. It was great. And it slowly changed over time, and I couldn't get with it. Like NWA came in, and I remember that sounded badass, but then like all the like Snoop stuff started coming in, and I didn't really follow it. Kind of fell out of it. Because I grew up with loved like Michael Jackson. I loved like Janet Jackson. So I didn't really have this animosity. And I didn't know what it looked like. We had like 2 black guys in our school. They both played on their basketball team, and when we got the ball, we passed it to them. Right? That's just the way it worked.
Yeah.
And after I graduated, I did my first year of university, and I got a job up north, like way up north. And when I went out way up north, I was working with oil company then, and we had to drive and check on our oil wells, and there was we basically had to make sure that the guys that were going into the reserve were of like Indian heritage or something, or like, because otherwise it would set the wrong example.
Mm-hmm.
But right before I arrived, because I was there for 4 months, right before I arrived, there was a bit of a scandal in that the local tribe finagled a settlement reparations from the government. And if you did the math on it, every single one of them got a minimum of 80,000 Canadian dollars. Now, this is in 1997. No, 1998. So it was a lot of money.
Real money. Yeah.
That's real money. And it fucked up the town. It was in Fort St. John, BC. And it fucked up the town bad in a way that I've never seen before. Because basically, when you go to like one of the big chains in Canada is Boston Pizza. So, you go to Boston Pizza, and there's like sports on the TVs, and there's like a lounge, and, there's like a place you can take family to and all this kind of stuff. We couldn't even go to Boston Pizza anymore. This place would be taken over every single night of the week, and it was rambunctious. And I remember there was almost a race riot that started because one of the people of that tribe took his money and bought a brand new like Dodge truck. And this is the kind of area where people love their trucks because you kind of need them. Winter sucks up there. Like in the summertime, like when I was there, I'll never forget it. It was the best view of the Northern Lights I've ever had in my entire life. I'd go to these like bush parties, and it would go all night long, and the sun would like never go down. It would go down for like 20 minutes and then come right back up again. But this one particular guy decided to poke the bear. So when he got his Dodge, he also got it detailed. He got it kitted up. And right across the back, he got airbrushed on white, or something along the lines of like, Whitey bought this, or thanks Whitey.
Yeah.
And what then happened was some random person keyed into the sides of his vehicle, Whitey did this. And it was so you go into the Boston Pizza because there's not a lot of places you could go. And I was 18, I was 18 years old. I had been living in Alberta where the drinking age is 18. I moved to British Columbia for this summer and it was 19 there. So I went from being legal to not legal again. So I had to go to places like Boston Pizza. And it was just like you could cut it with a knife. It was so tense.
Yeah.
The whole time. And that wasn't their last settlement. You see, they've gotten more and more. And also the problem in that regard is that their leaders suck up like 80% of it. In this one instance, they gave everybody at least 80K. And I'm talking like if you had a baby, the baby got 80K, right? Like it was not an 18 and over thing. It was like everybody got it.
Everyone with a heartbeat.
And it's like my degree's in economics. And we always talk about the helicopter issue, where if you came over like a poor area and just dumped like $5 billion in cash over that area, it's not going to make everybody richer. It's just going to make the prices go up on everything. And so, yeah, like I had my buddy over again on Sunday, Simon, my British buddy. And like, we're just like, cause he's a centrist, like he's a very centrist guy. So, but he really dislikes Trump. I don't like Trump.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Who doesn't?
I don't like Trump. And we were talking about it and it's like, we're getting to the point where we're just like, let's just end all of our political talk now with, they all want you dead. That's just it. They just want you dead and poor and dead and don't want to pay for anything. And everything gets worse. And I'm going to bring that in on my issue when it's my time. Cause I think it ties in well.
Well, I don't have anything more to say.
You said what needed to be said.
Yeah. We as a culture need to, start living forward. So one of my New Year's resolution this year is to watch more movies that I haven't seen because I just watch the same movies over and over and over again.
Right.
So,
can I send you more suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
I'll cool off on the Westerns.
what I started with is I've been watching the Rocky movies and, I watched Rocky Balboa last night and it is the best Rocky movie since Rocky.
Since Rocky. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Because Rocky is a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah. The little speech he gives his son, and then they bring it back in the fight where he's like, it doesn't matter how hard you get hit, it's how hard. It doesn't matter
how you.
Yeah, it's how hard you get hit, and you still get up or something, and keep moving forward. And I was just like, I mean, it's once again like we have this whole culture.
I got chills just even bringing that speech up. By the way. That speech is so amazing.
Our whole culture is about like people getting just the shit beaten out of them. And it's not just Rocky. Like there are hundreds of movies and TV shows and books and comic books about how, you just get beaten down. And what do you do when you get beaten down? You just keep going. And
we just finished Return of the Jedi the other night. And I used to shit on that movie, like on Ewoks and stuff. No, my appreciation for that movie in the Star Wars trilogy, it's gone up exponentially because again, it goes back to like Luke gets his ass kicked in Empire. He's getting his ass kicked in Return of the Jedi, but he's still got that belief. He's still got that hope. Keeps going.
That's what makes the whole Rocky series great. Is that, that
Rocky's amazing. If
he just never gives up. And like, the story of the movie is accentuated by the fact that like this movie was made, the first one was made through sheer force of will on Stallone's part, and that's why he's a household name. So it's like a double. The story in the movie is
they
about
didn't have
this.
Permits, like there's no extras. Those are people.
The movie is telling the story about someone like taking their destiny in their own hands, but also the story of the movie. Like I would not be surprised. If in 20, 25 years, there's a a Rocky movie that maybe is just called Stallone, and it's a movie about Stallone making
Yes.
Rocky.
Yes, that should, but he's gonna be black now, and it'll be made by Netflix.
Yeah, it'll be about a black woman.
Yeah, well,
Sylvester Stallone.
Creed took over, so.
But it's like our culture is based on that, about like taking your destiny in your own hands, not giving up, not letting people tell you who you are, why you're this person, and what you can do, and just doing it. And the whole reparations discussion is antithetical to that dream of being the man that you can make yourself, not being the man that someone tells you that you are, but being the man that you have made. I made this fucking person.
Mm-hmm.
And if all we're looking for is victim points and getting everything that we can out of life, the person that you are is nothing. You're a husk.
It's not gonna happen though.
Yeah.
Like if you people there's, man, the cultural differences are a thing. It's never gonna change. It's just never gonna change.
Unfortunately, probably not. But anyway, let's what's your issue this week?
Here's what I don't get. Playing God. I watched a video. I watched a video about some guy that's trying to beat death. And he's and there's these scientists are saying that maybe in our lifetime there will be enough technology to stave off like aging, to live to like 180. And this one guy's like just fighting as hard as he can. He's like doing everything he can to live as long as he can. And I'm thinking to myself, like, fucking why? Why? Like,
Yeah.
I'm 45. I'm going to turn 46 later this year. And I would probably say, with the exception, okay, like I'm talking about micro and macro. Okay. You know the concept, the micro and the macro. My micro life is great. I got a wonderful, amazing, incredible wife. I got 2 fantastic kids. I got a great family, right? I love my micro life a lot. But my macro life has been on this extreme downturn for my entire adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything every year is slightly worse than the year before. Everything. Why would, like, we're talking about this. Why would anybody want to live to 180? Why would anybody want to live that long? And there's this concept of transhumanism that keeps coming up. And you got Elon Musk talking about it. You got that U-Haul, that guy with the World Economic Forum, Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh yeah,
and he's talking about like chips in the brain and losing free will, and the concept of the soul is over. And all I can think of myself is, this is so demonic. Like, like if you read the Old Testament, there's people in there that live like hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it and you're like, oh, that's the reason not to believe in the Bible. It's like, no. You're aware that entropy exists, right? You're aware that like we're getting worse. Like IQs are going down. People are not. You got this thing where people are taught, like, seeing photos of their like grandparents at the same age as them, and it looks like completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing like videos. Like I've seen on X people marveling at videos of people in high school in the years I was in high school.
I saw that video too. It was like from 2008 or something. Or it was from,
no, dude. It was like, that one was 2001 or 2002.
Yeah,
I graduated in 97. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, what's wrong with it? And they're like freaking out because they,
how old. And I agreed that like the people in those videos looked a lot older than what teenagers look like right now.
But that's what I'm saying. like when I'm talking about playing God, it's like we've got testosterone dropping like crazy. We've got tons of problems like in the endocrine system. We got tons of these problems with all these disruptors. I got a cow. I talk about getting a cow. Part of the reason I felt it was a kind of an emergency to get a cow is I've read about, have you read about this Boaver?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Bill Gates was behind this development because of this bullshit belief that cow farts are causing the LA fires, and racism. And
Not the guy with the blowtorch. It's
not
cow farts
the
and
fact that
racism.
there's 5 fires that are getting started on the same night, like 20 miles from each other, with people pouring gasoline into the sewer drains and then lighting a match. Not that. Boaver is designed to alter the cow so that it doesn't fart anymore. And the strange thing about it is that people looked into the ingredients on it, and like one of the main ingredients in it is such a fucking biohazard that humans are not allowed to have physical contact with it because it'll severely disrupt your fertility.
Oh,
Okay. So we're putting this into the cows, and a friend of mine sends this article to me because I'm thinking I'm down here in Paraguay. It'll take forever to get to me. No, that shit was approved in June of 2023 down here. I didn't even know about it.
well,
I've
Fortunately,
eaten food that has that shit in it.
fortunately, we have an inside man, and he'll get the batches that don't have it in it and ship them down to you.
There we go. Everything that they're doing. And so then I look back and it's like, you guys are talking about 180-year-old people, yet you're killing us with cancer and you're killing us with like infertility. Like the children of men scenario is on the way.
Oh yeah,
It's on the way, and I don't like it.
nope.
And it's like, again, about your reparations talk too. It's like people not taking responsibility for their life. And like anytime I see a debate, have you ever seen a debate? Have you ever seen an abortion debate where the pro-choice people actually make a cognizant point that actually wins? I never see it.
Mm-mm.
The pro-life people destroy them every single time, yet we're still debating it as if it's like, as if we're not lying to ourselves that you're murdering babies.
Yeah.
And so you're promoting a gay agenda, you're promoting trans, you're slamming us with all kinds of forever chemicals, you're putting shit in the cows, you're putting shit in the chickens, you're putting shit in the milk.
Stuff in the water make the freaking frogs gay.
Frogs gay, atrazine, that's a real thing. And then you have the audacity to tell us that like we're going to live till 180? Okay, so if I'm living to 180 and you've got this concern about population control, are you just flat out saying that we're not going to have kids anymore? Like I'm not going to have grandkids? Like is that where we're going with this?
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you have that asshole Mark Zuckerberg, trying to do a PR sweep campaign to make it look like he didn't give almost $500 million to the Biden campaign and he didn't censor the shit out of people. Going back to your reparations thing. So I was watching Razor Fist, friend of the show, and he was getting interviewed on a thing and he was reacting to Mark Zuckerberg's comments. And he's like, fuck you, man. Like there was a post that came out. There's some lady who was saying, to fix all of our problems, we need to genocide all white men. Like she was serious.
Yeah.
And people were flagging it and he flagged it too. And you know what he got for it? Next time he signed up, next time he tried to go on Facebook, they halted his account and said, we need to see your ID to prove that it's you. Mm-hmm. And that post didn't get down. That post was promoted to him. He didn't know this person at all. It was promoted to him. And yet these assholes want me to put a thing in my head and link into your metaverse so that I can have my Blade Runner Joy girlfriend that is all fake and just live like you want to trap the soul in the nothingness. Like that's really what you're going with. Playing God, man. Like I know we've talked about this before and we used to get calls in on it. And I know Buck didn't believe on it and like the whole chemtrails thing, but like geoengineering is a thing. That's a legitimate thing. And I don't like it. I knew that in Calgary, they were spraying the shit to get they were trying to affect the weather. It was done on behalf of the insurance companies because Calgary used to get hailstorms. And so if they could prevent the hailstorms from coming or being as bad, then they wouldn't have to pay out as much in the damage. I don't need you to say you're spraying stuff on us to make us all sick and die. I'm saying, did you look into what you're spraying up there to make sure that it doesn't or not? And man, oh man, like we're just getting to this point where all these technocrats and all these like are making this mad push because they want to play God.
Yeah.
They really want to play God. And it's unnerving because it's like, okay, so we're going to change the cows. We're going to change the weather. We're going to make your boys into girls and your girls into boys. And we're going to take away your free will. We're going to plug you into this metaverse. And then you're going to what? Buy NFTs and show off your NFT art collection. And like, I know those are kind of dead now, but I mean, that was the idea. Was that you're going to decorate your metaverse apartment. Fuck the metaverse. There's a life we're given right here, right now.
Yeah.
And you should probably live it. Like when I was talking to my client today, when he was making me do these articles that almost made me miss the show, I said to him, I said, man, I really need this tonight. I need to go on the show tonight because for my own mental health, for my work-life balance, I require this. You know, I live in a place which is mostly Spanish speakers. I can get by just hanging out with my wife and kids forever and be happy. That I love spending time with them. There's no problem there. I never get sick of them. But I need this. I need this. I need to talk to you. I need to talk with you guys. This is important. And so I think to myself all the time, like when I'm seeing this, like these pushes, and it's like, okay, so you want to make them live till 180? You want to do all like fuck 180, right? Like I'd be totally happy if I get struck down at 46, as long as my family's taken care of and that everybody's taken care of, because that's my time to go, because God decided when it was my time to go, not some asshole, and I'm not going to prolong it. I don't give a fuck, because the thing is that I like the mRNA, right? Like, I mean, they're talking, the way they're going to be pushing this 180 thing, they say it's because we've unlocked the mRNA technology. The fuck you have. The fuck you have. It doesn't work that well. So I don't know. Anyway. Yeah.
From a non-theological standpoint, you know, from the way I look at it, what does quality of life look like at 180? You know, Jimmy Carter just died. He was 100 years old. He was basically a fucking skeleton being rolled around in a shopping cart.
Well, they're saying that you wouldn't be, you'd have your abilities still then, I guess.
Yeah. I'm in their perfect world, you're going to have it. But as with all technologies, that shit's going to be pretty fucked up for the first 100 years. So they're talking about like, okay, we're going to extend. Are you going to extend? You know, am I going to be 180 at the, you know, the way I am now? Like I'm probably in the best shape of my entire life because I made better choices and I committed to a lifestyle that of health instead of decadence and just shit eating and not moving. Yeah, I could see that maybe another 150 years of this would be great. I could become a really fucking great glass
You
blower.
watch all the movies.
Yeah, I'll watch
all the remakes, all the reboots. You can read all the books.
But
Who the fuck cares?
in reality, what will probably happen is, I've got another probably 10 or 15 years, and then, the joints will start going, and arthritis hits, and, cognitive decline is part of it. And so you're talking about 150 years from now, me just being like a vegetable that's being kept alive because of this implant in my brain that's still shooting dopamine in, and physically I'm alive, but spiritually I'm completely dead, and I'm not able to create or go do the things that I
But that
want to do. And the
you said
argument's
it
going to
right
be like,
there.
oh well, you'll do it in the metaverse, and
You-
your brain won't be able to tell the difference. Like,
You said it right there, though. Spiritually dead. I think most of the people on this planet already are. And you
Probably.
talk about creating things, like you've got your glass behind you, and I've talked about this on the show before, and I've talked about it with my son. You should be creating. You should have a creative. You need a creative surplus.
Mhm.
You should create more than you consume. You should create more than you consume. And if you're consuming other people's product all the time, other people's books, other people's paintings, other people's life, you're not living. Live your own, create your own, do your own. And like that's the problem. Is everything is fake and gay. And so if you're just plugging it in and getting that dopamine shot and getting all those things in, you're bored. You're always bored. Why? Because you're not living. You're not alive. You're spiritually dead. And like I got recharged over the holiday on that short little bit of space because I got time to spend with one of my best friends. I got time to spend with my kids. I got time to eat good food cooked by the lady I love. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And those couple of days made up for what I'm going through again right now, because it charges you up, because that's what you live for. That's why you have to make Sundays count, or someday count, because that is important. It's important. You're not a slave. Don't act like one.
Yeah.
And when they're using you as a guinea pig on things, stop volunteering.
Mhm.
Just knock it off. And when they start pushing these things like you're going to own nothing and you'll be happy, the fuck I am, and the
Yeah.
fuck I won't own anything. Like that's not going to happen.
You're
You
gonna
know,
live.
so
You're gonna live to 180 now, so that when you graduate from college at 22 or 23 and can't get a job in your career field, you can go become a burger flipper at McDonald's for 30 years and then transition into actually working. And then you can work until you're 140 years old, and you can retire with the last 40 years of your life to do whatever leisure you should have now that you've worked for the last 120 years and just in the slot mines, and finally saved enough and finally bought a house. Yeah, it's I'm not what I love to naturally live into 180 in like a really great lifestyle of creating and spending time with the people that I care about and going play interesting places. Absolutely. Is that what going to be what the use case is? Absolutely
not at all.
No.
Well, and it's just, again, like it's like nobody's putting in the work. Nobody's doing the things that you need to do. Like I have a big problem with Ozempic, right?
Yeah.
I have a big problem with Ozempic. Ozempic changes your digestive system, and it makes you sick, and it makes
Yeah.
you look like shit. But people are using it, and they keep using it because
'Cause
they
they
want
want
to
a
cut
shortcut.
corners.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't you want to be Rocky? Don't you want to get up from being fat? Don't you
Yeah.
want to have lost it your own? Like, I'm smoking like a chimney here. I'm going to quit again. That's my goal. I'm going to quit again this year. It has to happen. You know, I went to the dentist, and like the back of my teeth were stained, and it just freaked me out. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not good. And you know what, man? Like, yeah, I read about nicotine is, we were wrong about it, nicotine about certain things. Who cares? I'm gonna quit this year. I'm gonna do it the Alan Carr way again. Easy way to stop smoking. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna enjoy my life. I'm not gonna be tied to any of these things. And
Yeah.
I gotta work less, and I gotta play more, and I gotta spend more time in the house playing with my kids and less time making some company stave off elimination from NASDAQ. Like I just like this isn't a life. I gotta stop it. So that's my issue is playing God.
Great issue.
So yeah thanks. So shall we get to the news?
Yeah, this week's episode of Here's What I Don't Get is brought to you in part by News Burnout LA. Our news channel is no longer standing because it was in a zone that wants to be rezoned to be apartments.
The Calgary Flames came to town.
Fortunately, we still have sorry, I just got a work email. Fortunately, we have some of their last couple of news stories here still sitting in the chute.
Okay.
A Detroit area library lets a man keep a baseball book that is now 50 years overdue. How generous of them. 50 years later, a man who grew up in suburban Detroit tried to return a very overdue book to his library, and they said, you can keep it, and there's no fine. No wonder Detroit's going bankrupt. That guy owes so many nickels, it's not even funny. Chuck Hildebrand of Chicago said he visited the public library while in town for Thanksgiving and rented a book called Baseball Zania Stars in 1974, but he never returned it. They moved, and he threw it in a box. Book. But 5 or 6 years ago, he was going through the bookshelf, and he found the number on the edge of the book and looked inside and found that it was due back December 4th of 1974. So he decided to keep it until 2024 and try and return it. He said that he met the director of the library, who said that some people never come back to face the music, but there was really no music to face because he and the book were erased from our system. So, they digitized their records and they didn't carry over that this guy owed him about $1 million.
I'm just looking at the book right now. It has such an awesome cover. Like that book needs to. That is a keeper right there. I'm definitely. You know what? It's $10. I'm gonna find that one. Yeah, it's from 1971 was when it was printed.
I really identify with the story, and you're gonna love this book. I don't know when I rented this book because it was in the digital age, so there's no punch in there. But I rented this book from the library. Probably, I would guess sometime like before 2013, somewhere like between 2011 and 2013.
What I can't
called IBM and the Holocaust.
Why would I love that book?
It's a book. It's a book about basically how the Holocaust was possible because IBM created, sold the Third Reich the computers that allowed them to digitize the data.
What's the name of the person who wrote it, by the way?
Edwin Black.
Edwin Black.
Yeah.
All right.
Son of Polish survivors, Washington-based writer Edwin Black is the author of the award-winning Holocaust Finance Investigation, the Transfer Agreement, and was an expert on commercial relations with the Third Reich. It was really interesting read because essentially, like the reason why they were able to like identify and round up the Jews for the Holocaust was that they were able to digitize their data and process it all through computers that were sold to them by IBM. And the thesis of the book more or less is that IBM essentially like made tremendous profits by being and it was actually really interesting in the way that because the Third Reich wouldn't allow outside they wouldn't allow you couldn't operate a company in Germany at the time that wasn't owned by Germans. So what IBM did, being a New York-based American company, was they sold this subsidiary company to a German family, and then basically, like the contract with that German company was, you can only purchase computers from IBM out of the United States, and then you rebrand them as whatever the German branch was called. So it's really interesting because it's also a parallel as the way like companies work today, where they like will transfer a portion of their business into Ireland, I think, because Ireland doesn't have an corporate income tax.
Yeah.
Scotland it was a really interesting read back in the day, and I just never got around to returning it to the library. And then I moved out of Tulsa.
Reread it. You should reread it.
Maybe I will move there and back again. But I've had this book now for probably 10 years or more. So maybe I'll wait another 40 and take it back to the Tulsa County Library. I've got one more news story here.
Sure.
Speaking of Poland, A U.S. citizen was denied entry into Poland after security staff objected to handwritten notes in his passport. The unidentified passenger arrived at Krakow's Balius Airport on a flight from London shortly after midnight. The woman was stopped at passport control because her document contained handwritten notes of locations and airport names under visa stamps from the country she had visited. She told border security staff that she was unaware it was not permitted to write on her passport, and the Polish news agent says she will remain at the airport until her return flight on Thursday. As a general rule, it's not permissible for the holder to write in the passport other than to provide a required signature and emergency contacts. Airlines and immigration officials often deny boarding or entry if they feel a passport has been changed, damaged, or defaced. It's not clear why border officials had not questioned the woman about her passport. Well, I think it's pretty obvious. It's because they're all Nazis.
Oh yeah, clearly.
Yeah,
I don't even know where to go with this. I mean, like, first off, why is that a rule? I guess to like prevent people from like writing in like a different birth date or something. I don't know.
I'm sure she just like was, you've already got.
Why was she using that as a notepad?
Oh, well, it's already got the stamp of the country you're going into, so I'm sure she just like, I flew into Balice Airport on this day, and it's like a little memento of all the places she's going. It's a woman. She's stupid. She's
Did you ever see that story? I don't know if it was somewhere in South America. I think it was in South America, and there was an Israeli who came in, and the guy's passport, like the person at the the customs, like stamped it, and then like drew a dick, and like. I mean, like, I'm half tempted to not believe it.
Well, it was probably Argentina.
Somebody's great uncle.
Yeah.
So who's going to live to 180?
Yeah. So, but those two news stories. I thought that was interesting that you're not allowed to like make little notes in your own passport. I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Probably don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not a good idea. You can use your passport if you're like writing on a piece of paper and you need something slightly harder than the piece of paper to write on it. But come on, like passport.
So before New Year's, I went to the post office with my stepmom, and we were just hanging out, and she had to go run some errands, and so we're standing there in the line, and here in the United States, that's where you get your passport, is the post office, and. So we're standing there, and she's like, "Oh, I think I do need to renew my passport in like the next year or two." And then she said, "Do you have a passport?" And I said, "Nah, I don't need one. Fuck all those other countries. I don't have to go travel some shithole country." And
hey, I live in a shithole country that wants to welcome you.
And this old man that was standing in front of us turns and he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I love traveling."
Thanks, pal.
That's crazy. And I was like, "Oh, I love traveling too, but I don't need to go to some other fucking country to do it. There's plenty of great places right here in the United States that you can go travel to. Until I've hit all those, I don't need to go to one more fucking country." And the guy was aghast with me, and I'm like, "Dude, you turned and started a conversation with me.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
making a flippant remark to my companion here. You decided to inject yourself into this. You mess with the bull, you get the horns, old man."
Well, it begs the question, like, so with all this Trump talk about Canada and the 51st state, which is just bluster, I hope. I don't want to have a U.S. passport.
I hope so too.
I don't want to have a U.S. passport at all. I don't. Part of the reason too is like, so I moved, and as a non-resident, I don't have to pay taxes in Canada.
Yeah.
But if I'm a U.S. citizen, anything over, I think it's like 80, you got to pay taxes on, no matter where you live in the world.
Amazing.
It's fucking horse shit.
Yeah, that is horse shit.
And I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of countries that don't really like Americans.
That is also true.
There's also a lot of countries that don't like Americans. I mean, we used to hear stories about Americans sewing Canadian flags on their backpacks so that they get treated better. I don't know if that's going to carry over anymore because I think all that goodwill's gone.
I hope if we do absorb Canada as a country, what is done is that they issue you guys passports with an asterisk, right?
Yeah,
so it's like American United States of America asterisk.
Yeah. Well, because I looked into moving to the US, right? but I wasn't going to plan. I wasn't planning on becoming a citizen.
Yeah.
I was just going to live there as a resident.
Yeah,
you know,
you
see if
get
I
yeah,
a
and then
permanent
you can vote
residency.
and you get welfare. It's great.
Well, I came in. I would be coming in from the wrong border. That's the problem. So
Yeah.
if I came in from the south, maybe.
Well, now you're
But-
down south, so you can join one of the convoys.
I guess I should legally change my name to Chaco, and maybe that'll help the cause. But yeah, no. Yeah, you guys are looking at Greenland too, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's I saw someone post that like, what did they just find at the Arctic Circle that needs to be contained?
Well, look, I don't want to get in the weeds, but the Club of Rome wrote about this in 1991, and they drew their maps, and it was like basically dividing the whole planet into 10 kingdoms. And the strangely, the map is Canada, United States, and Greenland all in one. And I think it has military value. I think it has military value for, because then basically, if you got all those three together, you're touching 3 oceans. And Canada's got a lot of oil that Trudeau wouldn't let us produce.
Yeah.
And Greenland has a bunch of like rare earth elements that you need for, your
Tesla
phone screen to slide nicely. I don't know.
And you're selling me on it. Sea to shining sea to shining sea.
Exactly. But like you should see the Canadian reaction. Like it's and I just shake my head. I'm like, look, dude, have you we've known about what Trump's all about for 10 years.
He says shit to get a reaction and get people talking, and then doesn't fucking do anything.
Well, and like here's the thing, like my dollar is tanking because of this, and because I get paid in Canadian dollars, and it's tanking because of this, and it's like Trump came out and he's like gonna slap a 25% tariff on Canadian stuff, and like Canada's like, well, fine, we're gonna cut off our oil to you, and it's like, wait, no, we're not. Like that's the only market we have to sell to, and like, what are you going to sell it to other Canadians and the guy with the Dodge Ram up in Fort St. John? Like you can't, and it's of course Trudeau and like Ontario talking about, yeah, fuck, we're not going to sell them any oil. It's like Alberta's like, the fuck you aren't. Like, no, we're fine. And on top of it, he said it. He didn't just say it blanketly. He gave it conditions, and they're 2 easy conditions: police your border and get on this fentanyl problem. Like that, those are 2 things the federal government should do. But instead, like Trudeau's like, we're not going to talk to them and we're not going to do it. It's like, just do those things and you won't have to do the tariffs. Like that's an easy call. It'll cost you a lot less.
To quote our friend Sage, just do your fucking job.
Just do your fucking job.
I think the whole Greenland and Canada absorbing
Panama Canal.
I think that's just like bury down a bunch of election promises so that
there was no talk about them in the campaign. I was going to come in with the old switcheroo. I was like, dude, like just stick to the deportations. That's what you got voted for. Yeah. Like that's what people voted for. Just stick to the deportations.
So we get all that stuff off of the front of mind so that when he gets elected in his first 100 days and doesn't do a fucking thing, people have kind of forgotten that that's what they wanted to begin with. Because everyone's
put
stupid.
All those celebrities in cages, like that redheaded chick. He's just gonna, he's gonna put them all in camps. Like, who's that untalented loser? My Life on the D List. What's her name?
Kathy Griffin.
Yeah. I mean, this is all about Kathy Griffin. The whole thing is about Kathy Griffin. It's just to distract you from the horrible Gitmo torture that's going to be done to Kathy Griffin on January 21st.
Anyway, well, this has been News Burnout LA. Our towers are on fire. There's no way we can keep reporting. It's really
sorry.
Please visit our GoFundMe though. We need to rebuild our $5 million mansions. Multiples. We own multiple mansions in the Palisades.
Sorry, we can't put any water on it because the Pistachio family owns 60% of our water.
Well, that takes care of our news segment today. But you know what it doesn't take care of? It doesn't take care of paying the bills. And as a big announcement this week, starting February 1st, you can support the show again at patreon.com/HWIDG. If you do no longer wish to support the show, please cancel your subscription before February 1st. February 1st, billing will reopen. There's going to be just 2 tiers. It's going to be very simple. There's going to be a $1 tier for general support. There's going to be a $5 tier for some bonus content. We'll do some do-gets. We'll do some movie commentaries. We'll kind of find whatever we're in the mood for each month. Essentially, Chaco has been pushing me for like the last year or more now, since whenever we started kind of resuming doing shows semi-regularly, pushing me to find a way
the bills.
to
Just cover your
cover
bill.
the cost. And so
Yeah.
I sat down during this break and, just looked at what over the year, what the show cost me. StreamYard's like $60 a month now. And then our website hosting and domain ownership and whatnot is
Nobody's looking to get rich here. It's just,
it's about $80 a month
in
is what we're looking for. So anything over that we'll probably use to maybe throw guest ways, or I don't know, maybe buy ads or something for the show, or just hold into a rainy day fund. So if it drops down below, essentially
we'll do our own road rage. If we get a big ballooning thing, we'll do our own road rage in Mexico.
Yeah,
but you don't have a passport, so that's not going to happen.
We'll use the Patreon overage to buy me a passport, and then
there you go. See,
that'll and doing a road rage in Mexico only costs like $40 or $50.
Exactly.
But yeah, so if you're currently subscribed, go check and edit your tiers. If you no longer want to be subscribed, you can stay as a free member, and if you want to just get like the feed of the regular episodes. But thank you to everyone who decides to come back and stick with us. We really appreciate it. And like I said, we're really just trying to make it a cost make the show being cost neutral.
We'll send out reminders to like on the other things, the Discord and in the Patreon itself, just to kind of
make sure that
feel like anybody feels like they got duped or anything like that. Just keep it as honest as possible. Nobody's looking to get rich off of this. Not like we're ever gonna. It's just to help.
Yeah,
I was running my other show, and I was like, look, I don't love this enough to like have that kind of charge every month. Our Timmer
23 on YouTube said episode 369 with 3 viewers, time to give up. But the listeners don't all do the YouTube. And to be fully honest about it, it's not about you.
5 now.
Chaka was talking about in his segment, like this is a way we let off steam. So we're going to keep doing it. If we don't hit our goal, we'll keep doing it. We'll just keep doing it. It just won't cost as much.
Yeah, exactly.
We do the show for us, and we really enjoy that you enjoy it. I want the listeners to know, the stuff that we're talking about. Hopefully, it makes you feel like you're not alone in the thoughts that you're having, and that like there's someone that is kind of going through some of the stuff or something similar, something you can empathize with, and that's what I think. That's what has made this show great for so many years. Is like just the true honesty and openness of everyone, and the community that has really like grown up around it in the Discord and in these people that like, that's why I check the Discord every day, is like just people talking about their lives and their problems, and Captain Carl is posting photos of all these places, going in like cool photos of stuff from the sky and talking about just how much we hate our fucking jobs, or like this dipshit that we work with, and like it's just stuff that it's real people living real lives and wanting to have people that kind of feel the same way.
Well, and also if ever we cross your internal line that like, oh boy, they went way further than us. Think about it this way. Like when I came down to Paraguay the first time, my wife and I went to our first expat meetup, and we're sitting there and like we're hearing the wildest conspiracy theories that are being bandied about. And I look to my wife and she just smiles and she's like, you're the normal one here. They're the crazy ones here. And so like, just keep that in mind, right? Like if ever we're like crossing a line that you're just like, well, like, I mean, at least I've still got my sense about me.
At least I haven't dyed my hair blue like a real fucking queer. What the fuck is up with that guy?
Oh, did you read about Destiny? Oh my goodness. Anyway, so
I got to protect myself from the Jewish space lasers, El Chaco. They're coming for me.
We got to get Foundering on this show, not just my other show. We got to get Foundering on this show. He was a good guest.
That was been pretty funny. Like seeing the stuff at the fires and like, here's a blue car, here's a blue trash can, and I was like, I'm safe from the Jewish space lasers. Yes. Can't get me. Anyway, well, I've got one more issue this week. Here's what
Let's
I don't
rock it.
get: the command track. So many. Obviously, if you've been listening to the show, you've basically been if you've listened to the show since the beginning or since I joined it, I've been listening to the show back episode 20. Well, I don't know, where am I now? I'm somewhere right after Tim has joined. But essentially, like, you heard me finish my last year of college, graduate, get my first full-time job in the industry, go through freelancing shows in that last year in college, start freelancing again while in Tulsa, getting laid off due to the pandemic, becoming the representative for the union, moving to St. Louis, taking a new job, discovering my new love of glass. Like, if you've been following the show, you followed my life. And from the outside, it might appear that I have been kind of pursuing greater levels of responsibility and management and being a leader and being in charge. And that is true. I have pursued that, but that is not what I want. I fucking hate being in charge.
Amen.
When I was in college, before the Dick Show, even I'm a technical director of a small theater now, and so when I was in college, the scenic design professor and the line design professor and the technical director of that theater all told me, you would be a great technical director. You'd be a great technical director. And I was like, fuck that. I don't want to be a technical director. I'm not a people person. I don't want to make decisions. I don't want to have to deal with the big picture. Like, I just want to mix my shows or do some lighting and leave. And life is a great irony. And so I found myself becoming now a technical director and being in charge and making decisions. And they're not all easy. And even before that, running the union was difficult. And so it's twofold. Like, I've courted leadership. I don't know if I really pursued being in a leadership role. And I think that one of the things that makes me a better leader than another person is the fact that I don't want to do it. I think really,
the reluctant leader. Yes.
Yeah. A huge problem with the society that we have today is that, there are people that want power that pursue it, and they pursue it for their own means. Whereas when you
psychopaths and sociopaths,
yeah, when you give power to a person who is kind of reluctant to have it or unwilling to have it, they're going to wield it a lot more delicately. And they're going to wield it with some reticence as far as like how and when they're going to, exercise that power. I think one of the worst things, one of the greatest abuses of power that I have ever done was when I was managing the union in Tulsa, and I put Tim on the call list. And I did give Tim preferential treatment. He's my best friend. I wanted to see him succeed. But I also, it was very isolating. The job that I had was very isolating. There was nobody. I didn't have a boss. I was in charge of everything. I was making these decisions. In 4 months, we did $1 million in labor in 2022 before I left. It was a miserable and killing job. And so one of the things that I took comfort in was giving my friend work so that he would be around and he would understand. He was the only person that I could really vent to, and not because he was above me, but because we've been friends for so long. And I needed this show. I needed him as a friend. I needed someone that understood what I was going through. And so that wasn't abuse of power. He should not have gotten all of the calls that I gave him. But through my abuse of power, he accelerated through the ranks and now has a full-time job outside of the union. And I'm very proud of him. He's doing great things. Like his life is a lot more what he wants out of life. And I really couldn't be happier for him. And at the time I knew that what I was doing was technically wrong. but it didn't really feel morally wrong. And
Yeah.
really, in the end of the day, if one person got slightly preferential treatment for the betterment of himself and the union, having skilled laborers,
Mhm.
I don't feel any guilt about that. I can sleep at night. I slept at night at the time. I sleep at night now, especially now knowing what the ultimate payoff is. And so, part of the problem is that like accelerationism of lifestyle and the way you want to live. Like I could have stayed where I was. I could have stayed a small, so the job that I got straight out of college was, it was the head electrician for the Tulsa Performing Arts Center. And that was my first time like really being in charge of a crew. In Star Trek terms, I was coming out of as like a lieutenant. And I was given a small group of non-coms that I had to command, and I made decisions, but I made decisions about my little purview of making the show happen. And I told those people what to do, and I broke them up, and I obviously did a good job at it, because then they decided to make me be in charge of all of them. And so I got out, and I was really happy in that position, and I was happy in that like scale of work. And I was number 3 of 3 in the hierarchy. And
Of
a
leaders.
little over a year later, I was number 1 of 3 in a hierarchy. And the questions got bigger and the decisions got bigger, but I still had like a captain that I could pass off my shit to and say, this is ultimately like the next person's decision. And I could have stayed at that point, but that point was $46,000 a year plus whatever I got in overtime. And, that lifestyle was a 1-bedroom apartment and eating packed lunches every day and really hoping for the overtime, because the overtime was what allowed me to like go out to dinner with my coworkers or do that kind of stuff. And so ultimately, like I wanted more money, and the only way to get more money in my industry is to get a job of higher responsibility and so on and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I hate about working in the union was now I'm like a captain of my own ship, and I've got to run all this stuff and make all these decisions, and making a lot more money than I make now. And but I didn't have time. I didn't have time to go do anything, because my life was so consumed by fixing and working. And what I figured out in the end was, what really made me hate that position was that I was no longer doing anything. Like I was managing all of these things. I was doing all these spreadsheets. I was setting up all these crews and telling them where to go and what to do. But my hands weren't touching the pieces anymore. I was no longer creating the work, because I had accelerated up into this like level of command where I wasn't allowed to touch stuff. And that is part of what made me miserable. And so now I've taken this job, and I'm still in a level of command, and I have to make hard decisions, and I can't pass them off. And it's hard. It's hard to make those it's hard to do that. And it's still isolated. Like I'm still, I can't bitch and moan at work to my crew about how difficult my job is, because if I do, it's going to undermine.
Well, it'll make them lose confidence too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
My authority and my confidence in as far as doing the job. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm no Jean-Luc Picard with like this emotional distance and just give commands and walk away and hang out in the ready room. Like I'm very hands-on. So for Christmas, my mom got me this book. It's Lead Like Lasso. It was a leadership book, like a self-help book, because we watched Ted Lasso together.
Right.
And it was really interesting. It's actually the first time that I've ever like read a self-help book or anything that has like a philosophy on being a leader. All of my philosophy and command style has been developed by watching television and movies and seeing what works and what qualities I can reflect in myself, and holding myself to a standard of what I can sleep with and what I feel is appropriate, and looking at the people who have led me and trying to emulate the ones that I felt did a good job, and also trying to be the opposite of the ones that did a bad job. And so I read this book, and it's not, there was a lot of good information. It was like, some of it was reinforcing decisions I had come to on myself. Some of it made me think about things that I could maybe do differently. Some of it was inapplicable because that's just not the style of person that I am. That's not the way that I want to lead. But, I thought I talked about it on the show for the last year, a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, February, March of last year, I was really ready to quit theater,
I
and
remember that.
I still am. I am, but I've come to a different place. I've come to a different appreciation for my job now, and my life as, and what I'm doing and why. And so I'm not, part of the reflection on why I didn't want my job anymore. I thought about, like, what do I want to do? Like, what do I, if I could get paid what I'm getting paid now and work the hours that I'm working now and do a job in theater, what would it be? And the where I landed was the job, like the dream job for me would be to just be an audio engineer that just walked into the venue and mixed a show and then walked out. Didn't have to load it in, didn't have to load it out, didn't have to figure out where the shit goes, not be a sound designer, just be the guy on the faders and that makes it sound good and makes it sound loud. That job really doesn't exist. I mean, there are ways that I could do it for less money or more hours, or and finding this balance. And but like what I came to was, I don't want to be the captain of the ship. I want to be the helmsman or the chief engineer, or the guy that's like making the stuff work and it's there. But that's not like the way the pattern of my life has turned out, and I don't regret being in charge, because the other part of it, like this moral compass part of me, is like, tells me if I stop doing this, is someone worse going to take my place? And would I rather continue, for the sake of the people under me, to try and keep their lives, to try and make their lives better? Because one of the things that I try to do for my crew is I try and make their lives better. And so it's like, yes, it's a sacrifice for me, or it's, maybe not my first best destiny, but it's, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And so, is this job so bad? Is it so bad that it's not as bad as the last one? It's a lot better. I can focus on me. I've like embraced this art that is mine. Theater is this collaborative art where everybody, the sound designer and the lighting designer, and the costume designer and the scenic designer and the director and the dramaturg and the choreographer, they're all like bringing these different parts, and then you have to like kind of make compromises and boil some of your stuff out, and you don't get like the piece that shows up there on stage isn't necessarily it's ours, but it's not really mine. And that's what I love about making glass, is like every single one of these pieces behind me, all the pieces that are up in my house or that have sold or I've given to friends, they're mine. There's no one else. There's no other vision in them of a thing that happened. And like, so I'll stay. I will continue to be the captain of my ship, to make the lives of those underneath me and beside me more tolerable, because I've found a way to make my life more tolerable. And on the shitty days, I guess I'll come here and talk about how shitty they are. And because I was thinking about it today. We had a crew member come into the office today to talk to us, and she sat down, and I was terrified that she was about to tell us that she couldn't work anymore. And that wasn't what happened. She just, we'd been on break, and now things are getting back, and just wanted to, check in and chat. And I thought about it, and we hired her 2 years ago, I guess now. And she was so quiet and so reserved and so shy. And, Tom, my coworker, was always trying to get her to tell us a joke. And, she came into the office, and she came into the office today, and she was smiling, and she was telling some jokes with us, and we were kind of teasing her about some things, and we were all smiling and laughing, and she left, and I was just like, this is exactly why. This is what makes this job worthwhile, is that, it's probably not 100% because of us, but there's, we turned this, changed who this person was over the last couple of years. And she's become a leader to her peers, and she's become confident in the work that we do. And she's more happy and outgoing, and standing up for herself, and setting boundaries, and doing good things. And I'm like, man, if we do one of those a year, this job is 100% worth it. Absolutely. All the shitty days that there are, that'll make this worth it. And so, well, I don't get that I ended up in the command track when it wasn't what I wanted, 10 years ago now, 12 years ago. I'm happy that that's where I've landed, because ultimately I think I can maybe make a more of a difference than I would have if I had just stayed behind the console.
I'm not sure I'm a believer in destiny, not the blue-haired fellow, but like the concept.
Yeah. I don't believe in the blue-haired fellow.
No.
He's an AI robot.
But like, when you can reflect on those kind of things and see where those things go, like, I mean, I've had management roles multiple times in my life. We talked about this earlier about, like, firing somebody is never easy. It's the worst. I've had to fire a lot of people, and it takes a lot out of you, and you have to build yourself up, and then you have nobody to talk to, because the crew hates you because you just fired one of their friends. And I used to work on a crew, and I was like number 3 in command, but I had my own unit, kind of like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I worked up to that just so I could get more pay. And also because I'm like the best employee and the worst employee you'll ever have, because I work my ass off for you to get off my back. And I hate that I'm in that position. I hate being an underling, and I do everything I can to make sure I'm not. But it wasn't. I'm so glad we got rid of the talking about wrestling rule on this show, because it applies. One of the hardest things. So my uncle was an investor in Luchando, and he made this flippant comment to my mom, and it cut me deep, because it made me enraged, because it was like, well, the reason why it failed is because Joel's not that good at business. And I was like, you weren't there.
Yeah.
You weren't available. You weren't there. You didn't live it. And it's funny because you talk about that, like the creating things, like, it was my idea. I came up with everything in the lead up. I came up with a name. I came up with how I wanted it to look, how I wanted it to feel, who I wanted on my team. I brought them in. I put people into their positions. And then it started. And I hated it, because my job was no longer my creation. it was to keep it from dying. So I had to do all these runs to the bank and argue with banks about like, don't put me on a money laundering list. I swear to God, I'm not money laundering. I had 40 people working under me. I had to pay the rent on the studio. I had to pay for our TV time. I had to pay for our post editing. I had to do all this kind of stuff. And it was so hard. I worked every day. We shot on Sundays. And it's this weird thing because by necessity, I had to play a character on the show. By necessity, because we didn't have anybody that was bilingual who could kind of be that bridge that knew the culture and could do it. So it was suggested to me by Sully to you do the thing, because I had a guy lined up to play the Don Chaco character, and he was an Argentine, and he ended up running his mouth, and we fired him before he even started it. And so my whole week was putting out fires all over the place, HR fires, PR fires, logistic fires. Getting the ring in was darn near impossible, but we made it happen. Like, you would have one day I have to write it all down at some point in time, but like, even to the point where we had our first day of our taping, and literally that afternoon they were finishing, like, putting the lights up and like putting in the bleachers and it was pouring rain. And in Paraguay, nobody shows up for anything. It was pouring rain, but it stopped, thank God, like an hour and a half before the show started. So people actually came. And so when we get to Sundays and I would put on the sunglasses and the hat, yeah, I'm still having to like put out fires, but I've got those people in their places and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, or mostly doing what they're supposed to be doing. And for that very moment, when I would come through the curtain in my gear and get that reaction and have to remember my lines and deliver it and emote and do everything I could for them, for that one moment, it was a vacation from everything else I was dealing with. For that one moment, I didn't have to be myself, but I could be myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the Don Chaco character was everything that I hated about the stuff I was going through in Paraguay, everything that I hated about what other expats do, everything that I hated about the struggles that we were going on. And instead of voicing it in a way that I myself would do it, I would take it, if I had no filters, and just blow it all out there. And it took years off my life to do that job. It took years off my life. And I had to fire people. I had to send people home, like on a plane. I had to like fire partners in the thing. I had to do all these horrible things to make it stay alive. And we got 40 episodes recorded. 40 episodes. And I put my heart and soul into it. But the sad part of it is again, when you talk about the controller making something like with the glass, I remember sitting down and watching the first packaged episode, our pilot episode. And I was upset because they used an older version of our Luchando logo that I had already gotten rid of. And I wasn't there in the post-production room to make that correction when it happened. And so here's our first show, and here's this old stupid logo, and I had no control over making that happen. And then things were going on where I had a booker that was writing all the stories. And I remember I sat in the first booking meeting because I remember the whole thing was like this idea that like I wanted to like tell stories and do all this stuff. And I sat in there and I was almost unwelcome in the creative department. I had to kind of put my ideas in later, and it drove me nuts But at that point, I was like, okay, fine. I just need to let you guys do it. And that was the last time I ever managed so many people. And to have my uncle say, he's just not good at business. He's not a business guy. It hurt because it was like, man, you had no idea the shit we had to go through. And the fact that I even got all 40 episodes made was a miracle in and of itself. But coming back to your point, so I go back to Canada, tail between my legs. We have our second child. I sort of get back into the writing. My wife goes back to work. We end up moving back to Calgary. And this is just dogging me the whole time. It's like this, this thing that was my dream come true became a nightmare. But then, I get to go back and I'm looking at some of these episodes and I'm watching them with some of the guys that we made them with. And I'm like, actually, you know what? Like, this was actually really good stuff. And so when I came back to Paraguay in 2021, the reception I got, because the thing is, I left the ring here in the care of the guys we trained who had never wrestled a match in their entire lives. And they were doing shows with my ring and getting crowds. And now Sully, he's doing the same thing. He's building it up from where it was. And there's guys I remember there was a guy that our top guy right now is a guy named Lexor. And he's like kind of like a mix between, he's like the Brandon Lee Crow and the Undertaker kind of mixed together. And he's so popular. I remember the first time I saw him in the ring and I wanted to fire him. I was like, this guy's got nothing. Like, this guy sucks. But like our guys and our belief in him to keep going, I didn't fire him. And now he's like our top guy. And now he's teaching all these other guys to do it. And there's a wrestling scene down here all because of what you're saying. I stuck to it. I kept this thing going. And it was amazing. Like, I sent you the video of my return.
And the crowd went nuts. I mean, they're chanting his name like it was what, 6 years, 7 years?
Dude, it was 9.
Yeah.
9 years later. So you're talking about like memories from when you're a child. And I've got people in the crowd that are like in their early 20s.
Yeah.
Which means they were watching this when they were like the early teens, or they're 12 years old. And they remembered. And the fact that this is a thing, all because of all that other stuff. Nah, I'm not bad at business. I'm good at business. I just, it's just
I chose the wrong
place to do it. Yeah. And it was amazing. Like it was amazing. So now what's incredible is this Saturday night, I'm going back to Asuncion again. I'm big part of the story, and we're doing some stuff. There's nobody who watches the show in Asuncion that's watching this right now, so I can say it. I'm turning babyface in 2 months, and I've always been a heel, but we've been building this story up. And when I turn babyface in character, I'm going to level out all the shit that had to go on to make this a thing. And I'm also going to point out that you guys all kept this alive, and that touches my soul. Like, I said before, I'm like, I don't want to live to 180. I could die at 46. Well, why? Because I lived, I loved, I had 2 amazing children, and I created a thing in this weird country that nobody knows about that is alive and well and still going. And I can die happy knowing that. Like, I can totally die happy knowing that, like that was this thing. And man, oh man, when we were doing it, the amount of times that I was like, man, I wish I could quit. I really wish I could quit because I hate doing this. I hate managing this. I hate that I can't be in there watching them practice, or I can't be in there helping them write, because that's what I wanted this for. Not like I wanted it for my own little recreation thing, but that was like, it was a dream that became a reality. And here I was like, yeah, we had to switch banks 3 times. I would get $50,000 transfers come down, and I didn't know every time if it was going to make it. And I didn't know I was going to pay the payroll. But we did it. And it survived. And now there's people that are wrestling because of our show that wanted to learn how to do it, not because of WWE, but because of Luchando in Las Americas, that they wanted to be a part of it. And so it's like, okay, I took years off of my life to do it. I didn't feel it then, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I
planted a tree.
Yeah. And I also know that I never want to be a boss again. I've got 2 employees.
Yeah.
I got 2 employees, and I look to my employees as people, not as units, not as I look to them as people. You know, my main employee, my main guy here, it's like, he'll say to me, "Oh, it's like my aunt's birthday. I want to go to this thing." Yeah, go to that thing. Right? I'm not going to like pay you less for one less day. I don't care about that. He was like, you know, there's a Catholic chapel that needs a new roof on it. And, you know, I'm like, okay, here's some money to help out with that, and go take like 2 days, go do that. We'll live. We're fine. Right. And his life has changed because he's got steady work in an area of the country that has like no work. Like people here are struggling, but we have this one guy. And because of that, he's able to like put his kids into a nice school, and now they're getting careers going. Our other guy that was from our wrestling thing, I remember when I sat him down, because he was working his ass off for like a company that does like corporate logos on t-shirts, like the printing or the stitching and stuff like that. And I remember the meeting when we said to him, like, we'd like you to talk to your employer and figure out a way so that you can come and work with us, and, you know, and then be able to go back when it's done. And I remember I told him his salary, and he started bawling his eyes out. He started bawling his eyes out because nobody had ever paid him that much for this thing he loved, because he was a wrestler in another company from before, trying to get something going, and he was the guy we ended up putting over to be the champion at the end. And in the show, we have a sequence where he's building up for a championship match, and I'm managing him and I'm managing his opponent. And so we did it like not like a documentary, but like a movie. So this one episode was the one match, but there was all this like these little bits that we did in the lead up. And one of the bits was we were at a house that was being built, and that was his house that he was building. He wasn't renting anymore. It was his house that he was able to afford with our money that we were paying him. And then with the success that he got from the show, and he was able to keep doing those other shows afterwards, he ended up being able to buy the business he was working at, and now he's the boss at this business that it was. So it's like, you talked about Tim and you talked about those other things. It's like, okay, I didn't plan on being the boss. That was never my goal. It was just a necessary means to an end. But these lives were changed in the course of this whole thing, and my life was changed and their lives were changed. So, you know, I don't know how you can screen for people who are just like what I call them opportunivores. Yeah. People who just go for any opportunity and just take what they can and try to take as much, you know, be as
the best that they can.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I mean, you hear these things about like Diddy parties, and like what he would say at these things is like, it's all about control. It's all about control. I hate control. The only thing I like control over is my own life.
Yeah.
So after I was done with it, I was like, look, I don't want to work for anybody. I want to work for me. So I'll work for clients, but I'll work for me. And I became self-employed, and it worked out, and I got a life out of it. Now we're dealing with what I dealt with before. I signed away my soul in 2020 when I got a guarantee, but now I have to have that talk with the guy and be like, look, it's going to change, and I got to go back to where it was, and I'll take the risk, because it's not about the guarantee. It's not about the money. It's about my life.
Yeah.
And I want to live it. So,
yeah, I don't know, a lot of stuff to think about today and in the past year or so, and trying to make my life be the best life that I can for me without sacrificing the people, around me who I do care about. For my own ends, like finding a good balance there.
well,
Life's all
and
about
you,
balance and finding it.
even if you don't feel it in the moment, in retrospect, you can find out where that tapped in, where it came in. So,
And that was part of the conversation we had today was, it was not, to talk about destiny, but, making these tough decisions, and then someone comes in and reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. It was like, it's like someone was out there going like, hey, you're not shit at this.
Yeah, and you're not useless.
Yeah. And so
you're not bad at business.
it was the exact right conversation that I needed right at that moment to remind me, let's keep going.
Thank you very much for bringing this one up, because this was some good shit right here. And I don't care if we had 3 viewers watching, and I'm really happy the people that stuck around.
Yeah.
And this is why we do this.
That's why we do this.
This is why we do this. And I had no idea that was what you were bringing in. And I always love it when I don't know what you're bringing in, and it's like, okay, let them cook. And then I always like it. It's like, there's some fit here. There's a puzzle there that can fit. So this is good.
Yeah.
So
this has been this episode of Here's What I Don't Get. Like we said, Patreon's reopening February 1st. Change your subscriptions. Thank you to everyone that sticks around. No hard feelings to anybody who leaves. No, it's been very intermittent. No, it's been very weird. We welcome you to stay subscribed. If you decide you like the show again and want to come back, come on back. Join us in the Discord if you're not part of the Discord. And thank you to everyone who supported the show over the years. Thank you for the people who stuck with listening us in this transitionary period. And thank you to anybody who's listening in the future that maybe wasn't listening to the show when it was recorded. Hopefully it keeps going, and
hopefully 2025 gets better.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. Until next time, I'm Tab Burt.
I'm El Chaco.
We'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Ciao, ciao.
If you want to call into the Here's What I Don't Get hotline, call us at 704-750-9434 and tell us what you don't get. Or you can visit us on the Discord under voicemail upload. I would just have one this week from the voicemail hotline.
Thank God.
Yeah, here's what I don't get. Why are women always fucking cold? Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Different blood circulation?
Yeah. They're smaller.
Yeah. Different blood circulation, different fat distribution, different muscle mass.
I'm not one to talk because I'm always cold too.
And because they don't get to control the thermostat.
Yeah, it's frigid. It's been frigid in St. Louis for like the last week, and I have been under a heating blanket pretty much anytime I am not actively walking. It has been pretty miserable.
Thankfully, like my wife is so kind, because when I come in, because it gets hot here, and I got, if Cap and Carl's still on here, when I got the CPAP stuff going on, it gets really hot. Like it's a lot of stuff on my head, And so I always ask her to like knock it down a couple degrees on the air conditioning. And even though it's
Yeah.
a little bit cold, she just bundles up more blankets and she's good and everything works out. So yeah, women do get cold. They sure
Yeah.
do.
Those women sure be do getting cold.
Those cold women.
Well, that's the episode this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a ring. Tell us what you don't get.
yeah,
Give
we'll
us
get
some
back
feedback.
onto this. We'll get
And,
back onto this.
We'll be a little bit more regular than we're there at the end of the year. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the joys about changing from our perspective of changing from doing it weekly is that, you know, Christmas Eve was on a Tuesday this year, and New Year's Eve was on a Tuesday, and instead of like trying to have to squeeze in an episode and do all the other stuff, it's nice to kind of be able to go like, we're not going to do an episode this week, but
Yeah, but we'll try to do more.
Yeah, we're
especially
gonna
especially with the you know the help we'll be getting from Patreon. You know, it gives you that extra boost of like, yeah, I think we owe them. You know, I think it's a good idea.
But
So-
yeah, and I've got my schedule now through August, so it'll be a lot easier for us to be like, let's plan on this day. If we can't do it on a Tuesday, maybe we can do it on a Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
we'll figure it all out. Yeah. Thanks again, guys, and happy belated New Year and merry belated Christmas. And we'll catch you guys soon.
See ya.